Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. Before we get started, let's review a few housekeeping items. Audio is available for this presentation through your computer or by telephone. Please keep your microphone muted to avoid background noise and feedback. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it into the chat box. We'll have a dedicated time to answer questions at the end of the presentation. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please contact us through the chat box and we'll try and troubleshoot the issue. Closed captioning is available on the bottom left of your screen. We will post this presentation on our website for those who are unable to attend today. My name is Neil Butt. I'm the project manager for the New Mexico Environment Department Clean Diesel Program, administered by the Air Quality Bureau. I'd like to briefly discuss the funding program, and then I'll walk through the application. Afterwards, I'll answer questions. The application period will open on February 1st of this year and stay open until the end of the year, or until the grant funding is exhausted, whichever comes first. Applications will be evaluated, and successful applicants will be awarded funds on a first-come, first-served basis. Applications should be sent to me via email. We currently have $1,306,463 available to award. This is broken down into three different pots of money. $252,069 is available for replacement of diesel vehicles that have engine model years 1995 to 2006 with new clean diesel or alternative fueled vehicles or equipment. $615,238 is available for replacement of diesel vehicles with engine model years 1996 to 2009. And $439,156 is available for replacement of diesel vehicles that have engine model years 2009 or older. If you're replacing a diesel vehicle or engine with electric, then you can retire engine model years 2010 and newer. As a result of EPA regulations, diesel engines manufactured today are cleaner than ever before. But because diesel engines can continue to operate for 30 years or more, millions of older, dirtier engines are still in use. Combustion of diesel fuel produces nitrogen oxides, or NOx, fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, carbon dioxide, and air toxics. Reducing exposure to diesel exhaust from these engines is especially important for human health and the environment. Exposure to diesel exhaust can lead to serious health conditions like asthma and respiratory illnesses, and can worsen existing heart and lung disease, especially in children and the elderly. These conditions can result in increased numbers of emergency room visits, hospital admissions, absences from work and school, and premature deaths. Emissions from diesel engines contribute to the production of ground level ozone, which damages crops, trees, and other vegetation. Acid rain is also created, which negatively affects soils, lakes, and streams, along with the plants, animals, and other organisms that live there. These emissions also contribute to property damage and reduced visibility. The New Mexico Environment Department provides grant funding through the New Mexico Clean Diesel Program for projects that effectively reduce these harmful diesel emissions from existing heavy-duty diesel-fueled vehicles and equipment. This program is funded by EPA through the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, or DERA. In 2005, the U.S. Congress passed the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act as an amendment to the Energy Policy Act of 2005. DERA was designed to reduce diesel emissions from existing diesel fleets that did not meet the federal emission standards at that time. The United States Environmental Protection Agency is responsible for overseeing and distributing the DERA funds. For more information, visit the EPA Diesel Emissions Reduction Act funding website. Since 2008, the Air Quality Bureau has awarded over $430,000 in grant funding for qualifying diesel emissions reduction projects. Examples of these grant-funded projects are listed on our website. There are 4 DERA projects currently being funded, which include Duke City Ready Mix, which replaced 5 model year 1997 Kenworth concrete mixer trucks that did not have any emission control devices installed, with model year 2022 Kenworth trucks outfitted with contact manufacturing mixer bodies and equipped with model year 2021 diesel engines that meet current emission standards. Estes Express Lines Incorporated replaced 4 model year 2007 International brand diesel-fueled Class 8 single-axle freight hauling trucks with new lower emission model year 2022 International brand diesel vehicles. The Department of Cultural Affairs State Library is replacing a model year 2009 Bluebird All-American school bus that was retrofitted to serve as a bookmobile with a
Hey,
new
this is Chris.
as-built
Good. I was just wondering what you guys
bookmobile
found
manufactured
there.
by Matthews Specialty Vehicles. And Acme Iron and Metal is replacing a 1997 model year Tier 1 250 horsepower Fuchs diesel-powered rubber tire scrap metal material handler with a 2022 model year Cinnabogin 850 series E-electric material handler.
Hi, Neil. Neil, this is
Yeah.
Mark. Maybe just remind people to put themselves on mute if they're not speaking.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you very much for muting your microphone. If you have a question, please place it in the chat box. And at the end of the presentation, we'll answer all of the questions that you've placed there. So who may apply? Any public or private entity or nonprofit organization based in New Mexico in existence for at least 3 consecutive years and whose vehicles or equipment are registered in the state of New Mexico or have an international registration plan if applicable. So what projects are eligible? Eligible projects include, but are not limited to, idle reduction technologies, aerodynamic technologies, and the retrofit or replacement of diesel vehicles and equipment throughout the state. The grant funds will be used for the purchase and installation of EPA or California Air Resources Board, or CARB, verified, verified or certified technologies, or vehicle, engine, or equipment replacement utilizing a zero tailpipe emissions power source in accordance with DERA funding guidelines. Eligible diesel vehicles, engine, and equipment may include buses, both school buses and Class 5 through 8 transit buses, Class 5 through 8 heavy-duty highway vehicles, for example, refuse and commercial transportation, marine engines, locomotives, and non-road engines, equipment, or vehicles, such as those used in construction, handling of cargo, including at ports and airports, agriculture, mining, or energy production, including stationary generators and pumps. The existing vehicle, engine, or equipment must be fully operational. Operational equipment must be able to start, move, and have all necessary parts to be operational. The participating fleet owner must currently own and operate the existing vehicle or equipment and have owned and operated the vehicle during the 2 years prior to upgrade. The existing vehicle, engine, or equipment must have at least 3 years of remaining life at the time of upgrade. Remaining life is the fleet owner's estimate of the number of years until the unit would have been retired from service if the unit were not being upgraded or scrapped because of this grant funding. The remaining life estimate is the number of years of operation remaining, even if the unit were to be rebuilt or sold to another fleet. The remaining life estimate depends on the current age and condition of the vehicle at the time of upgrade, as well as things like usage, maintenance, and climate. Highway usage. To be eligible for funding, the existing on-road vehicle must have accumulated at least 7,000 miles per year during the 2 years prior to upgrade, or during calendar 2009 for school buses. The replacement vehicle, engine, or equipment should resemble the replacement in form and function. Funding cannot be used for the purchase of vehicles, engine, or equipment to expand a fleet. The vehicle, engine, or equipment being replaced must be scrapped or rendered permanently disabled within 90 days of being replaced. Equipment and vehicle components that are not part of the engine or chassis may be salvaged from the unit being replaced. For example, plow blades, shovels, seats, tires, batteries, etc. The replaced vehicle must be scrapped by drilling a 3x3-inch hole in the engine block and disabling the chassis by cutting through the frame rails on each side. A scrappage statement signed by the vehicle owner and the dismantler is required. A sample scrappage statement can be downloaded from our website. Preference will be given to projects utilizing hydrogen fuel cell technology. The two options for hydrogen projects under DERA include certified engine replacements. Hydrogen fuel cells are an option for engine replacements for eligible urban transit buses and drayage trucks. Also certified or verified vehicles and equipment replacements. Hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and equipment are eligible as replacements for transit buses, shuttle buses, drayage trucks, terminal tractors, yard hostlers, stationary generators, and forklifts. A drayage truck means any Class 8 highway vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 33,000 pounds, operating on or transgressing through port or intermodal rail yard property for the purpose of loading, unloading, or transporting cargo, such as containerized, bulk, or break bulk goods. While projects from the entire state will be accepted, special consideration will be given to projects near and adjacent to non-attainment areas, Class 1 areas, areas subject to high volume of diesel-fueled vehicles, and economically disadvantaged areas. Information about these types of areas can be found in the New Mexico Environment Department Clean Diesel Program guidance document posted on our website. I would now like to walk through the application step by step. For the project title, please enter the name of the project and, to the extent possible, include the organization name and type of fleets involved. For the number of vehicles, you'll enter the number of vehicles per fleet location. If an applicant has fleets statewide, the applicant must only include the vehicles for the project area as described in this application. For the responsible official, you'll enter the full name of the person responsible for the funding. This will be the person with signature authority and oversight for the project. In terms of the organization's unique and entity identifier versus the DUNS number, On April 4th, 2022, the unique entity identifier used across the federal government changed from the Dun & Bradstreet Data Universal Numbering System, commonly referred to as the DUNS number, to the unique entity ID generated by the System for Award Management, or SAM.gov. The unique entity ID is a 12-character alphanumeric ID assigned to an entity by SAM.gov. SAM.gov is an official website of the U.S. government, and there's no cost to use it. You can use this site to register to do business with the U.S. government. And as part of this transition, the DUNS number has been removed from SAM.gov. Entity registration, searching, and data entry in SAM.gov now require the use of the new unique entity ID. New entities can get their unique entity ID at SAM.gov and, if required, complete an entity registration. Applicants for a DERA grant must have an active registration on SAM.gov and be in good standing at the time of award. For example, not suspended or debarred, covered by a prohibition or restriction, or otherwise excluded from doing business with the government. However, you may apply for a DERA grant while your SAM.gov registration is being processed if you do not already have a SAM.gov account. The DUNS number is now optional and no longer required to apply for a DERA grant. For the contact person, you'll enter the name of the person who will be the department's primary contact. The contact person may be the same person as the responsible official. If so, please notate this as same as a responsible official. For your organization type, you'll check one of those boxes depending upon the applicability. Individuals are not eligible to receive funds unless they are applying on behalf of a public entity or a private entity or a nonprofit organization. A public entity is defined as the state and units of state government, a political subdivision of the state, including a municipality and its subdivisions, a school district, or an organization composed of political subdivisions of the state. A private entity is defined as any entity that is not a unit of government, including but not limited to a corporation, partnership, company, or other legal entity. A nonprofit organization is defined as a group that is registered as a 501c3 or C6 under the International Revenue Service Tax Code and described therein. For your fleet address, you'll enter the address where the fleet resides. This may be a location other than the organization or responsible official's address or project area. Description of applicant's organization. You'll provide a summary of the applicant's organization, including the organization's size and type of work performed. If the proposed project operates outside of the state, the applicant must provide the percentage of time your organization will operate the affected equipment in New Mexico. The equipment must operate within the state at least 75% of the time. For those fleets that operate outside of the state, the applicant must provide documentation verifying the operating time within the state as Appendix A. Include the number of hours and/or miles traveled within the state. Note in the summary whether the proposed vehicle will utilize an international registration plan. Also, include any environmental measures utilized by the organization, such as anti-idling policies that reduce emissions. Appendix A, documentation verifying the operating time in New Mexico. NMED does not have a standardized template for Appendix A. So however the applicant is able to document the estimated number of hours and/or miles traveled in the state, showing that the equipment operates within the state at least 75% of the time, will be acceptable. If your vehicle does not operate outside of New Mexico, then verification is not necessary. Project funding. Here you'll enter the funding you're requesting, cost shares, what you will be contributing to the project, and the total project cost. You'll also indicate whether a funding waiver will be requested. A funding waiver is necessary if the applicant is unable to meet the specific required cost share for that type of project as stipulated by the guidance, and requests that the percentage contributed by EPA be increased. For example, if the applicant is replacing a vehicle but cannot afford to only receive the standard reimbursement, for example, 25% for diesel to diesel or 45% for diesel to electric, then they would apply a waiver to receive a greater percentage. NMED will consider, on a case-by-case basis, and submit to EPA for approval requests for waivers from programmatic requirements. Waivers will only be approved for non-statutory or non-regulatory requirements. The applicant must provide sufficient justification for the waiver. The state must obtain EPA approval for any waiver request before you commence any work or the expenditure of any funds on a project involving a waiver request. Any questions regarding waivers can be directed to the NME project officer. Project location. Here you'll indicate whether the vehicle will reside within New Mexico, whether the vehicle will permanently reside at the project address, whether the vehicle will operate under an international registration plan. If you answer no to either of the first two questions, or yes to the third question, please provide a detailed explanation in the project location summary. Details to address in the project location summary shall include a detailed description of the primary area where the affected vehicle or engine operates, or the primary area where the emissions benefits of the project will be realized. A description of the routes and estimated miles traveled, and a summary of whether the project will be sited in an area where all or part of the population is exposed to diesel emissions. For those fleets that travel statewide, provide a percentage of the time spent in the various locations. A map of the project location is required to be included as Appendix B. Fleet or equipment description. Provide a completed vehicle information sheet as Appendix C. A standardized form is posted on our website. Provide a copy of the fleet's vehicle replacement policy or schedule as Appendix D to the application. The applicant must provide a detailed summary of the old equipment, including the make, model, and model year. Summarize the useful lifetime of the project funded vehicle or equipment and how it will be used by your organization, including a description of how the applicant's vehicle replacement procedures meet the attrition or fleet turnover requirements. Describe why this project would not have occurred without these funds. Appendix D, Fleet Replacement Schedule. NMED does not have a standardized template. The applicant will need to outline the company's standard procedure for vehicle replacement. This could be a company document or just an explanation of when the specific vehicle type is normally replaced by the company. For public agencies, there's usually formalized retirement periods. For example, statutory retirement of school buses after 12 years. The applicant will agree that funds under this award cannot be used for emission reductions that result from vehicle or equipment replacement or repowers that would have occurred through normal attrition or fleet turnover within 3 years of the project start date. The applicant must complete the use of funds restriction form and attach the form to the application package as Appendix E. A standardized form is posted on our website. Appendix E, use of funds restriction form, requires that the applicant acknowledge acceptance of 3 conditions. 1, funds under this award cannot be used for for normal attrition or fleet turnover. 2, funds under this award cannot be used for fleet expansion. And 3, the vehicle or equipment being replaced will be scrapped or rendered permanently disabled within 90 days of the replacement. Normal attrition. Engine, vehicle, and equipment replacements that would have occurred through normal attrition are considered to be the result of normal fleet turnover and are not eligible for funding under this program. Normal attrition is generally defined as a replacement that is scheduled to take place within 3 years of the project start date. Normal attrition is typically defined by the vehicle or fleet owner's budget plan, operating plan, standard procedures, or retirement schedule. For example, if a school bus fleet typically retires vehicles after 20 years, a bus that is currently in its 18th or 19th year of service is not eligible for replacement. A bus that is currently in its 17th year of service and has 3 years of service remaining, as defined by the fleet's retirement schedule, is eligible for replacement. Normal attrition does not include replacements that must occur due to a state or local mandate. Expected environmental outputs from this project. Please provide a detailed summary of expected environmental outputs associated with this project. The term output means an environmental activity, effort, and/or associated work product related to an environmental goal and objective that will be produced or provided over time or by a specified date. Outputs may be quantitative or qualitative, but must be measurable during an assistance agreement funding period. Specify the proposed technologies that will be used for this project, including why the specific technology was selected. With the exception of all electric technologies, grant funding may only be used for EPA or CARB verified or certified technologies. Please review the NMED Clean Diesel Program guidance for a complete listing of eligible equipment. In other words, the eligible diesel emissions reduction solutions. Additional project outputs to be included in the summary include the number of years that the technology will remain in the fleet, and for a list of project outputs. Project outcomes and project benefits. Here you will calculate and enter data for the total project lifetime emissions results in tons and cost effectiveness. NMED requires that all applicants use the US EPA Diesel Emissions Quantifier tool for the emission calculation and cost effectiveness. The applicant must provide a copy of the Diesel Emission Quantifier report as Appendix F. The applicant must complete the total project lifetime emissions results and cost effectiveness table. The information provided in this table is for the total project and not for the individual units. Now I'll demonstrate the diesel emissions quantifier. The diesel emissions quantifier is an interactive, web-based tool for users with little or no modeling experience. Evaluates clean diesel projects and upgrade options for medium, heavy-duty, and heavy-duty diesel engines, and estimates baseline emissions, reduced emissions, cost effectiveness for NOx, PM 2.5, hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, and CO2, and PM-related health benefits. Shown here is the landing page where you can begin by selecting the Use the DEQ button. The next step is to create a user account. By hitting that hyperlink there, shown with the purple arrow. Once you have created a user account, you can create a new project by pressing the Create New Project button, indicated by the purple arrow. On the first Create New Project screen, shown here. You enter the project name, total project costs, which can be estimated, and press the Save Project button, indicated by the purple arrow. Once you have saved your project, you will be directed to the Update Project Information page, shown here, where you select what type of replacement project you are planning by selecting the Add a Vehicle or Engine Group drop-down menu, indicated by the vertical purple arrow. In this example, we select Refuse Hauler, shown at the bottom hyperlink with the purple arrow. Once you've selected the vehicle or equipment type, you will be taken to this page. You will enter group name, for example, vehicle replacement, target fleet, for here we use the drop down for refuse hauler, the class of the vehicle, either 5, 6, 7, or 8, the sector, for example, municipal, quantity of vehicles being replaced, baseline engine model year, in other words, the model year of the vehicle that's going to be replaced, baseline fuel type, for example, ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, annual fuel gallons, or you can use the default if you don't have the data, annual miles traveled, or you can also use the default value provided by the model, annual idling hours, or the default value, upgrade year, in other words, the model year of the new vehicle that you're purchasing, and remaining life of baseline engine or vehicle, for example, 3 years or more. When you are finished, press the Save Group button, shown here with the horizontal purple arrow. Next, you will need to enter the information for the new vehicle by selecting the Add and Upgrade pull-down menu and selecting the type of upgrade, shown by the vertical purple arrow. In this example, we'll choose Vehicle Replacement, shown by the horizontal purple arrow. Once you've selected the type of upgrade, you will be taken to this page, where you will enter Upgrade, in other words, the replacement vehicle fuel type, new engine model year, new annual fuel volume, or the default, upgrade cost per unit, and labor cost per unit. When you are finished, press the Save Upgrade button, indicated by the horizontal purple arrow. Next, you will quantify project emissions by pressing this button, indicated by the horizontal purple arrow. Then your emission results will be displayed as shown here. At the bottom of the page, you will have an option to download results in 3 different formats: spreadsheet, importable CSV, and printable report. The last one, printable report, is the one you should submit with your application. This is indicated by the horizontal purple arrow. Returning to the application, public health benefits. Please describe how this project will meet the requirements of the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act by reducing environmental risk to the public and sensitive populations. Include how this project will reduce environmental risks to economically disadvantaged and other populations with disproportionately high and adverse human health or environmental impacts. Include the impacted communities in the project location to include total population, percent minority, percent low income, defined as making $25,000 or less per year, as well as proximity to hospitals, medical, elderly facilities, and schools, including daycare. For full credit, included a map which shows the locations of these facilities relative to the project area. Use the Environmental Protection Agency's EJ Screen, Environmental Justice Screening and Mapping Tool for data on minority populations and low income. Attach a copy of the EJ Screen ACS Summary Report as Appendix G, and a copy of the map that shows the locations of affected facilities as Appendix H. Low income is derived from the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Planning and Evaluation Poverty Guidelines. Using data for a family of 4 with an annual income of $26,200 or less. On the ACS report, this can be found on page 2 under the heading Households by Household Income. You'll add the first 2 percentages from the categories less than $15,000 and $15,001 to $25,000 to determine the percentage of low-income households in the project area, and you'll also include the EJ Screen map. For fleet projects that service multiple areas throughout the state, the applicant must provide a detailed summary of the route, an EJ Screen report as Appendix G, and a map for each area serviced as Appendix H, along with the percentage of time the fleet spends in the affected area. Now I'll demonstrate how to use the EJ Screen. EJ Screen is the EPA's Environmental Justice Mapping and Screening tool. Once EJ Screen users choose a geographic area, then the tool will provide demographic, socioeconomic, and environmental information for that area. EJ Screen provides a way to display this information and includes a method for combining environmental and demographic indicators into EJ indexes. To launch the tool, click on the hyperlink indicated by the horizontal purple arrow. On the next page, you'll enter the name of the city or county where your fleet resides into the search bar, labeled number 1 on the purple horizontal arrow. Next, you'll select the Reports tab icon on the menu, indicated by the vertical purple arrow labeled 2. Then select the City or County tab. Then move your cursor over the name of the city as displayed on the map. The city or county is shown by arrow 3, and the city that you're interested in is indicated by arrow 4. A pop-up menu of report types, as well as highlighting the limits of the study area, will be shown. In this particular example, we chose Albuquerque, and the city limits are bounded by turquoise, and the inside of the city is shown in green. Your menu of results is also shown in the middle of the map. To obtain the report that you'll need to submit, first enter a name for your report so you don't get confused with your other files. Then click the hyperlink labeled Get 2016 to 2020 ACS report, indicated by the horizontal arrow. The first page you will receive will provide the population and the percent people of color population information, shown by the 2 purple horizontal arrows. The second page of your report will provide households by household income, which you can use to calculate the percent poverty. To get this value, add the value for those earning less than $15,000 a year. In this example, there's 13%. To the value of those earning between $15,000 and $25,000 per year, indicated by 10% in this example, summing those for 23%.
You mute?
Yeah, it's on mute.
Yeah, well, you don't have to go with that as far as you go.
I remind people to please mute your
Yeah.
microphone if you're not.
Get it to Archie and let him think about if there's any equipment out there.
Mr. Madrid, can you mute your mic? Thanks.
I don't, I'll get the program, and I'll get it and listen to it if we.
That's what I was gonna say. You'll end up getting the whole flyer and everything.
Yeah, I'll get that down.
Yes, ma'am.
Returning to the application. Here you'll describe air quality in the project location. Describe any special air quality concerns within or within close proximity to the project area. For example, located in an ozone non-attainment area, nearby federal class 1 areas, and EPA designated priority counties, and include a qualitative description of the area's diesel emissions due to high impact features. For example, truck stops, railroad yards, distribution centers, interstates, etc. The applicant must provide a detailed description of how the project will reduce environmental impacts in the project location as it pertains to the air quality standards and proximity to Class 1 areas. Please indicate whether the project is located within or adjacent to an area designated as non-attainment for the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for ozone, currently Sunland Park in Doña Ana County, within a county whose ozone design value is equal to or greater than 95% of the NAAQS for ozone. Currently, this is Doña Ana, Lee, Eddy, San Juan, Rio Arriba, Sandoval, Valencia, and Bernalillo counties, or within or near a designated priority county listed in the NMED Clean Diesel Program Guidance document. Please describe the proximity in miles to the nearest Class 1 area. If there are additional Class 1 areas within 100 miles, please list all of them. A map of the federal Class 1 areas located within the state and in surrounding areas can be found on the NMED Regional Haze website, shown here. Please include a map showing proximity to federal Class 1 areas relative to the project area as Appendix I. Community engagement and partnership. Provide a summary that outlines project partners involved in the project and any community activities associated with this project. Project partners include government entities, school districts, or community organizations. Next, you'll indicate fuel type. Select all applicable fuel types for your proposal. Projects are not limited to using one fuel type. Projects can use multiple fuel types, such as compressed natural gas or electricity. Should the project, as proposed, require additional fueling infrastructure, please provide a detailed summary of the infrastructure that will be needed for this project, including dates of completion that correspond to the project completion date. Ability to be deployed in a timely manner. Please provide a description or summary discussing the estimated time of delivery for equipment or vehicles to include a brief discussion of the applicant's purchasing process. Purchasing procedures. Please provide a detailed summary of the applicant's purchasing procedures, ensuring that all vendors will be selected in accordance with state procurement and public contracting laws and federal procurement regulations. The applicant must follow state purchasing procedures as applicable, found on the State Purchasing Division website shown here. The New Mexico State Procurement Code, sections 13-128 through 13-199, New Mexico statutes annotated 1978 as applicable, and the applicable requirements contained at 2 CFR 200, entitled Office of Management and Budget Guidance, Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal Awards, in particular, procurement standards at 2 CFR 200.317 through 200.326. This must include price agreements in place, bidding processes, or other purchasing procedures. Previous grant experience. Please provide a brief summary of previous grant experience, including the year awarded, the funding organization, and the purpose of the grant funding. Also indicate whether any funded projects were not completed and provide an explanation of why these projects were not completed. If all projects were completed, please indicate this in one sentence. Before I finish today and take questions, I wanted to mention another potential source of funding to replace diesel school buses run by the EPA called the Clean School Bus Program. EPA has already awarded the first $1 billion out of a 5-year, $5 billion program created by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. EPA is also planning the next rounds of program funding to launch in the coming months, which will include an ambitious grant competition. Through future rounds of funding, EPA will make available another $1 billion for clean school buses in fiscal year 2023. EPA encourages school districts not selected in the first round of rebates and those that did not apply for this funding cycle to participate in future rounds. The Clean School Bus Program will contribute to healthier air, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and save money for school districts. Phasing out these diesel emissions will ensure cleaner air for students, bus drivers, and school staff working near the bus loading areas and the communities through which the buses drive each day. Diesel air pollution is linked to asthma and other conditions that harm students' health and cause them to miss school, particularly in communities of color and tribal communities. The reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, such as CO2, from these bus replacements will also help to address the outsized role of the transportation sector in fueling climate change. The majority of greenhouse gas emissions from transportation are carbon dioxide. The combustion of fossil fuels, such as gasoline and diesel, used to transport people and goods, was the largest source of CO2 emissions in 2020, accounting for about 33% of total U.S. CO2 emissions and 26% of total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. This program will also save school districts money as they upgrade school bus fleets, replacing older, heavily polluting buses with brand new clean school buses while freeing up needed resources for schools. On October 26, 2022, the Biden-Harris administration announced the fiscal bus program. I apologize. On October 26, 2022, the Biden-Harris administration announced the fiscal year 2022 recipients of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Clean School Bus Program rebate competition. 5 school districts in New Mexico were awarded $4,560,000 to acquire electric buses, including Las Cruces for $1,975,000 towards 5 electric buses, DERA Municipal Schools in Portales for $610,000 towards 2 electric buses, Dulce Independent Schools on the Jicarilla Apache Native Reservation in northern New Mexico, headquartered in Dulce, west of Chama and east of Farmington, for $790,000 towards 2 electric buses, Lake Arthur Municipal Schools, north of Artesia and Carlsbad, were 790,000 towards 2 electric buses. And Pecos Independent Schools, east of Santa Fe, were 395,000 towards 1 electric bus. That concludes my presentation, and I will now try to answer the questions that you entered in the chat box. Here also is shown my contact information.
Thanks, Neil. That was a great overview of the program. This is Mark Jones with the New Mexico Environment Department. So let's start. I see Chris, your hand is up. But let's start with the questions that were previously asked in the chat. So beginning of the presentation, Neil, Jennifer asked, do you provide funding for replacing a conventional gas engine vehicle with a clean diesel vehicle?
No, this is only for trying to get dirty diesel off the road. So your donor vehicle will have to be diesel powered, and then you'll have to replace it with something cleaner, either clean diesel or electric or natural gas or hydrogen.
Jennifer, did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks. So
Okay,
yeah, we
great.
currently have a conventional gas vehicle, so I guess we do not qualify. So thanks.
The next question is from Wendy, and she asked also at the beginning of the presentation whether the slides will be made available on the website, I guess, as well as the yeah, I guess maybe Neil, just clarify what will be available on the website. And I think you had a slide there too with the website address.
Yes, so my current plan is as soon as this presentation is concluded and I stop the record button, I'll receive it via WebEx and then I'll upload it to our website, which could take a day or two, certainly by the end of the week. So the recorded presentation that you just viewed and will be up there, and you can share it with anybody in your organization. And then if you want the slide deck as a separate standalone, so if you just want the slides and you don't want to have to wade through the presentation, I'll also put that on the website so you can download that.
Okay, great. And I see Tom had his hand up, and he also asked a question in the chat. So Tom, would you like to just verbally ask your question?
Sure. So I had two questions. One is just in that description of the applicant's organization. So if the vehicles are being driven 100% of the time within the state, do we still need to specify hours and miles?
No, well, there's a mileage requirement, but that's only for, there's a requirement that your vehicle has to be utilized a certain amount of time. You have to drive it a certain amount before you apply for this grant. But the amount of time you spend in New Mexico, you don't have to provide if you're always in New Mexico.
And then my second question is, in terms of fleet expansion, I understand that the funds can't be used for fleet expansion, but what is the definition or working definition of that? Like if we bought an additional vehicle in 2024, for instance, like where does that kind of cut off?
So if your vehicle's already scheduled to be decommissioned in less than 3 years, then it's not eligible. And so I guess the gist of fleet expansion is basically this program's not to bolster agencies' inventory of vehicles. So the point is get dirty vehicles that you already own. They either have no emission controls on them or rudimentary controls, and replace them with something much cleaner to get the diesel emissions off the road. And so that's why it's going to have to be like for like. If you have one garbage truck, a certain type of garbage truck, you're going to replace it with the very similar type. It's not going to be the same manufacturer exactly or the same model, especially if it's, 5 years, 10 years apart in the purchasing, 20 years. But it needs to be similar. So you can't have a garbage truck and decommission it and then buy a dump truck. That's not going to work. And then more to address your point, we don't want to buy new buses and new garbage trucks and new dump trucks gratis for agencies. We want them to get the old ones off the road. So if you just want to buy a new one and you don't have an old one that's the same to get rid of, then that won't work either. That's considered expanding your fleet, because right now you have 4 garbage trucks. And if you want to just buy 4 more without replacing those, then that's doubling your fleet to 8 garbage trucks. That's expansion.
Understood. Thank you.
And let's see. So Chris, thanks for your patience. I see your hand is up. And would you like to ask your question now?
I got a couple questions. I'm the Public Works Director from Mescalero Apache Tribe. And I noticed on your application, it doesn't say that tribes can apply for this certain grant, can we?
Yes, tribes are eligible.
Okay, so the next question brings me to, what is the cost sharing percentage?
Okay, so it'll depend on what kind of vehicle you're going to replace it with. So the exact percentages are shown in the guidance that's posted on our website. And so, there's 10 different ways you can make it cleaner. Aerodynamic effects, engine replacement, vehicle replacement. There's lots of different ways. But as in generalities, if you have a dirty diesel and you replace it with a clean diesel, then you're going to get a 25% reimbursement. If you're going to replace a dirty diesel with an electric vehicle, it'll be 45%. But there's a whole scale. There's at least 20 different ways to make your vehicle cleaner. And each one of those separate percentages is shown in that guidance.
Okay, I'll research that, look at that. The next one is, how many replacements are we allowed to put in?
How many applications?
Yes.
Well, there's not really a limit, but what I would say is if you're one agency or one entity or one tribe, I mean, if it's a discrete unit, like if you're the public works part of a certain entity, then you'd put in one application and then list all the vehicles you intend to buy in your application. So like if you're a single agency, I wouldn't put in one application for a dump truck and then one application for a garbage truck. I would do one application per section of the agency. And so if you have a large agency that might have a solid waste branch, and then you have a school bus branch and whatnot, then they might want to have separate applications because they're separate, discrete entities of the organization. But if it's one general organization, and you're going to, it's all under one funding situation, one purchasing group that's monitoring all the things that you're buying, then I would just put in one application.
Okay, sounds perfect. Then my last one about the procurement part of it, you say we got to follow the state procurement policies. The tribe has their own procurement policies, and when I go through these type of grants, am I able to still use the tribe's procurement policy if I provide the documentation?
Right. Everyone uses this. However you buy your vehicles now, you can still follow that, but as long as it falls within the state procurement. So like you have something specific, the way each agency buys their vehicles, and you would follow that, but then hopefully that would also fall underneath the umbrella of the general guidelines that the state uses. And hopefully the state would be more generalized and more broad of a requirement as the specific type of requirements that you have. But if you get down to that point and you have something that you think conflicts between the tribal procurement and state procurement, you can email me and I can ask our legal team for an opinion on it. Generally, that hasn't been a problem.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Those are my questions. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks, thanks a lot, Chris, and others that asked questions. Neil, did you see, I think you answered David's question. Did you see that in the chat, David Bailey?
Yes, hours. Is there an hours of operation use requirement for heavy equipment such as motor graders and loaders, or is it just miles driven? Yes, there is. So for on-road vehicles, there's going to be a mileage requirement. For off-road vehicles, there's going to be an hour requirement. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I don't see the hours in front of me, but it's going to be in the guidance. I want to say it's maybe a couple thousand. I don't remember right offhand, but yes. So obviously, if you have a generator or something that's not going to, it's not going to be going thousands of miles because you're building something like your road graders, then it's going to be an hour use. And you can go to our website and look at the guidance document and it should show you. And if you can't find it, then you can email me and I can point you to it.
And it looks like that's all the questions in the chat. And does anyone else have any, if anyone else has other questions, just feel free to ask them now.
Hey, this is Russ. It sounds like this program is primarily for big emitters like school buses, garbage trucks, long haul vehicles, things like that, that have a lot of operation. And I know it's first come, first served, but when you talk about preferences and awarding grant money, are smaller communities that have, construction equipment like backhoes and things like that, do they really, is it really feasible for them to apply for these things when it's a much less of an emitter?
Yes, how much diesel emissions you're actually taking out of the air is not one of the crucial components of how we select projects. So yeah, I would say apply. I guess some of the key things are, first of all, you want to be taking some diesel emissions out of the air, and how much. So like if you're taking out 1,000 tons and some other applicants taking out 2,000 tons, they're not going to eclipse your application. That's not the point of the application. So you want to take diesel emissions off the road. You want to, if you're submit an application and we review it and score it, we have a standardized scoring matrix that we score all the applicants that come in, and you're selected and awarded the funds, then you will purchase the vehicle with your funds, take delivery of that vehicle, the new vehicle, disable the old vehicle, and you'll submit proof to me that you have bought a vehicle, you replaced it, you disabled the old vehicle, and then you'll take pictures of the disabled vehicle and the invoices and proof of payment. You submit all that to me, and then it goes under review for me and management. And then if all that plays out, then we start a reimbursement process to pay you back 25% of what you spent, or 45% if you buy an electric vehicle. So one of the key things about this program is you have to buy it yourself with your own funding. Buy it, the new one, take delivery of it, get rid of the old one, give me proof of all that, and then down the road, we'll pay you back the certain percentage. There's another thing I can't think what it was, but that's the main, one of the main points of this program.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, Chris, did you just still have your hand up, or did you have a follow-up question to that?
I had another question that just popped up to me is what's the time frame, say if we got the grant and the time frame to spend it, because I know when you're looking at trying to purchase new equipment, you're looking to probably about a year to maybe 2 years before these even delivered to you.
Right.
How's
And
that
that's a
gonna
good
work?
point. Is, and the application that's up there now, we're not going to be taking applications until February 1st. So you have time to think about it and discuss it with your team and find out if this is feasible for your agency. But the application that's currently up there now says that you have to finish your project by September 30th of this year, which of course is infeasible, even under the best of circumstances. So by Friday of this week, or maybe sooner, I'm going to replace that application. Basically, let me back up. So on our website, let me share it for you. I'm trying not to lose my train of thought too badly. Let's see here.
Right now I can just see, oh,
But well, that wasn't my website though, was it?
no,
Oh, here it is. Okay, I got it.
okay.
Okay, so here's what the website looks like. And the easiest way to find our website is to go into Google and enter the acronym NMED-DERA. That's how I always find it. And on our website, we have
Neil, it's
the,
pretty small. Is there any way you can enlarge
sure,
okay,
that better?
it's better. I think people can, yeah, that's better. Go ahead.
So here's the application, the instructions, and the guidance document. And the application that's currently up there, see if I can find it here. Is the application showing or is the website still showing?
Yes, the application showing.
Okay. So on the application and on the application instructions, it says you have to have your project completed by September 30th of this year, which is unrealistic, like I was saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these with the deadline of September 30th, 2024 for you to get your project done. And so 2 points that I was trying to remember to make is one, the application, the instructions and the guidance that's up there right this second, everyone can go to and download and read and review, and I recommend that you do. The only changes that are going to be made between now and February 1st are that I'm going to change that deadline from the September 30th of this year to September 30th next year. But everything else is exactly the same. So you can look at it now and then just know that by Friday and certainly by February 1st, that date, that project due date is going to be changed by a year, but everything else should remain the same.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, one more question.
No, it's fine.
If say for example the tribe decided to apply for the waiver, how does that waiver reflect the 40-25% then? Does this grant pay for the full amount up for the equipment, or how does that work?
No, so how the waiver works is, so say you're going to replace a diesel garbage truck with a natural gas garbage truck, then you would be entitled or eligible for a 25% reimbursement. So you spend 100,000 on your truck, and if everything goes as planned, then you'd get 25,000 back. Some agencies have some difficulty trying to use a cost share of 3/4 of it. They're putting the bill for the 75,000 and they'd like to have more. And so what you can do is when you submit your application, indicate that you are interested in getting a waiver and try and get that bumped up. So maybe you want to bump it up to 30% reimbursement, 40, 45, 50, whatever you think is what's going to be needed to make it financially feasible for your organization. But the not good news is that I just applied for a waiver for a different agency and EPA denied it. So I'm not sure if the financial climate at EPA is not good right now because we're in a recession, or what the problem is out there. Because in the distant future, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, we applied for a waiver for a bus company and we were able to persevere and get it bumped up from 25% to maybe 50. I can't remember the exact figures. But then this last go around, within the last, sometime in 2022, we asked for a waiver for another project that's already on the ground and they were already in the process of being awarded, and EPA denied it. So if you do need a waiver and you think the waiver is something that is going to be a deal breaker possibly for your agency, spell it all out in your application. But I can't be optimistic or hopeful that it'll be approved because the last one I asked for was denied.
Neil, you cut out a little bit there at the beginning. I don't,
Oh,
did you get all of that, or when he was cutting out?
Yes, I got it. Sounds perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Are there other questions or comments? All right, Neil, do you want to kind of wrap it up and maybe just um, give a few concluding remarks?
sure. Can you see that? My contact information?
Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate you having an interest in our program and in this grant program. And we very much like to get some projects on the ground, and we're excited of the possibility of giving away this money. If you have any questions, in the distant past, we had an ombudsman that would be the intermediary between applicants and myself, but now I'm it. So if you have any questions about anything DERA related at all, just email me or call me, whichever is more convenient for you. And I appreciate you taking the time today. And this video presentation and the slide deck I'll put up on our website before the end of the week. And applications will be accepted starting on February 1st of this year. And I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Looks like there's several people that shared their appreciation for your providing the information.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.